You videotape me, okay? All right. Okay, I'm gonna start out. We're gonna do the pre-trip, and we're gonna look under the bus, make sure we don't have any wires hanging down. We have no leaks. We're gonna check. We've got our crossing arm here. It moves freely. We've got our lights. We have our clearance lights at the top. We have our loading lights or bus lights. They are all properly mounted, tight and secure. They are clean, not cracked or broken, and they are the correct colors. We have our headlight assembly here. We've got headlight, turn signal, and reflector all here in this one unit. It's properly mounted, secure, not cracked or broken. We've got our mirrors, brackets here and here on the side that are properly mounted and secure. Our mirrors are clean, they're not cracked or broken. Okay. Unlock our hood. Go ahead and I'm going to pull the hood on up. I start on this side. You can start on either side, but I tend to start on this side. I'm going to look. First thing I come to is I've got my fuel, my washer reservoir for my windshield washer fluid right here. It's properly mounted. It's not leaking. Cap's on tight. Filled to a proper level. I have my alternator and wiring right here. It is properly mounted and secure. I don't see any exposed wiring. I have my water pump is right back in here. It is properly mounted and secure. It's not leaking. Both of those are driven by a serpentine belt. My serpentine belt is right here. I'm going to check it, make sure that I don't have any cracks or wear on it. Also, as far as tension, it should have no more than 3/4 inch of deflection when I press on it with my thumb. Make sure that it's properly tightened down. Okay, then I've got my frame of my bus. This is the main member of the bus, runs from the front to the back. I've got mounted to that, I have my suspension components. I have 2 spring mount hangers, one here in the back, one in the front. I have my leaf springs right here. Those are properly mounted. They're not cracked or broken. Don't have any illegal welds. I have my U-bolts that are right here. I have no missing bolts there. They are not cracked or broken. This is my axle. It is properly mounted to the leaf springs with the U-bolts. And then right behind that is the tie rod, which connects from one wheel on one side to the driver wheel on the other side, or the steering wheel on the other side. Also, I have my shock absorber. Here it is properly mounted to the frame and to the axle. No bolts or components are missing. It is also not leaking. Then I have my brake chamber and hose here that are properly mounted and secured. No signs of any leaking. This is my slack adjuster and push rod. Those are intact with no missing components. And if I were to release my brakes, then my slack adjuster and push rod should move no more than about 1 inch with the brakes released. On the inside of my tire, the other brake components, I have my linings, my shoes, and my brake drum. If I look on the inside of the tire, I can see those. I want to make sure that I don't have any excessive wear or cracks in my brake shoes and linings. Don't have any cracks in my drums or any welds in my drums. Okay. Then I'm looking at my tire here. This is a steering tire on the front. I should have a minimum of 4/32 of tread depth on this tire. This tire cannot be re-grooved or recapped, so you cannot use a retread tire on the front of these vehicles. As I said, that minimum tread depth should be 4/32. I'm going to check on my surface of my wall of my tire for any abrasions, bulges, or cuts. Make sure that I don't have any damage to the sides of my tire. I have my valve stem here. It's straight, properly mounted, it's not damaged, has a cap on, tight. My air pressure, which I would check with an tire pressure gauge, should be a minimum of 90 psi. I'm going to look at my rim, make sure that I don't have any damage or any illegal welding to my rim. Looking at my lug nuts, making sure that they are all properly tight. I'm looking to see that I don't have any trails of rust coming down, or I have any shiny exposed treads that would be indicating that any of my lug nuts have come loose. Also, I have my hub oil seal here in the center. It is properly mounted and secure. Check and make sure that all my or my bolts are properly tight on that as well. Also, I have my mud flap here that is properly mounted and secure with no damage. That's everything on this side. So now I'm going to move to the other side of the engine. Here on this side of the engine, I have my coolant reservoir. It's properly mounted and secure, no leaks. It's filled to the proper level. Cap is on tight, and I would not remove that cap if the engine were to be hot. Here I have my oil dipstick. I would check my oil by pulling it out, wiping it off, putting it back in, pull it out, and check to make sure that it's in the proper operating range. My transmission fluid dipstick would check that the same way, but that is checked when the engine is running. On this side, I also have my power steering reservoir. It is properly mounted, not leaking, caps on tight. From it, I have the hoses that are running down that I can follow, make sure that I have no leaks in any of my hoses or any of my couplings and clamps. One of my hoses runs to the power steering pump, which is located back here behind the frame on this model bus. And then the other hoses run to the power steering gearbox, right here, which is located right here. The steering column is here. It's properly mounted. There's no missing components. Everything appears to be in place. All the bolts and nuts and my universal joints here are properly mounted and secure. From the gearbox, then I move to the pitman arm, my drag link, and my steering knuckle, or my steering arm down here at the bottom. I have two castle bolts or castle nuts that are in place, and they are also secured with cotter keys or cotter pins to make sure that that those do not work loose. This tire is the same as that tire over on that side. The suspension system is the same on this side as it would be on that side, and I would inspect those all the same way. Also on this side, I have my air compressor, which is located here right behind, on this bus. It's located here right behind the power steering pump. It and the power steering pump are both gear driven on this vehicle. Okay. Looking over the entire engine compartment, I'm looking at my wiring and my hoses and my air tubes or air lines. Make sure everything looks like it is properly mounted, secure. I don't see any wear or anything that appears to be loose that would be any problem in this area. So that completes the engine compartment. I'm going to close my engine hood back up. And then I'm going to start over here on this side with my service door. My service door moves freely. Hinges are in good condition, no rust. My gaskets and seals all appear to be properly installed, in good shape. I have 4 windows that are clean, not cracked or broken. My seals around my windows all appear to be good. The door opens and closes freely. On this side, I have my DOT number for the company that is the same for all buses that belong to our company. Then I'm going to look down the side of my bus, take a look and see, do I see any particular damage or anything on the side of the bus? Everything appears to be in good shape. Checking my windows. Here I've got my passenger windows are properly mounted. They're clean, they're not cracked or broken. Looking down my windows, they all appear to be the same way. Okay. Then I've got my turn signal here on the side. It's properly mounted and secure. It's clean, not cracked or broken. It's the proper color. This is my diesel exhaust fluid, or DEF tank. The door is properly secured. It opens freely. Checking my DEF cap. It's on properly and securely. Checking. I don't see any signs of any leaks here this morning. We got some condensation from just because of the weather this morning. Moving on down, I've got my emergency exits. I've got 2 emergency exits on this side. They are properly outlined with reflective tape. They're properly marked as emergency exits. When I'm doing the inside inspection, I'll inspect those as well to make sure that the buzzers are sounding and that they open freely. I have another clearance light here in the middle. Also, I have my reflectors here. They're all properly mounted and secure. They're the proper color. In front of the rear tires, they are all amber in color. Behind the rear tires, clearance lights and reflectors are going to be red. Here I'm going to look under my bus a little bit here now. I'm going to take a look at my frame, my exhaust, and my drive shaft. Make sure that they are all properly mounted. My drive shaft hangers, those are those U-shaped safety hangers down there. Make sure that they are in place and that the drive shaft is not resting on them. Also under here, I'm going to look from this angle, since I cannot see behind this tire. I'm going to look diagonally across over at the suspension and brake components for the other side, and I have leaf springs, leaf spring mounts, my slide brake chamber and hose, slack adjuster, push rods, my shock absorbers. This bus is equipped with air ride suspension bags. I'll show those right here behind the tire in just a moment. Also, I'm looking to can see my lining, shoes, and drums here behind on the back side of the tire, which you could not see otherwise. These tires in the back, I have dual tires here in the back, so I have 2 tires. These tires must have a minimum of 2/32 of tread depth, and these tires can be re-grooved or recapped on the back. Looking to make sure I got even wear across, checking my sidewalls of my tires, looking for any abrasions, bulges, or cuts, looking at my rim, make sure that I don't have any damage to my rim, looking at my valve stems. I've got 2. I've got one here for the outside tire. Then there is a second valve stem here in the back for the inner tire. Again, if I test in the air pressure in these tires, it should be a minimum of 90 psi, and I would use a tire pressure gauge. We'll check, make sure that I have no debris that is built up between these 2 tires that could cause overheating and tire failure. Looking at my lug nuts, they are all properly mounted and secure, no signs of rust trails or any shiny threads that are showing. Also, I have my axle seal here in the back that is properly mounted. Bolts are all tight. I have no signs of any leakage back here. Then I also have my mud flap back here on the back tire, which is properly mounted and secure. It's not damaged. And then I have my air ride suspension bag here in the back, right behind the tire and the axle, checking to make sure that it is properly bolted to the frame. The mounts are bolted to the frame properly, and the air ride suspension bag itself is not damaged. It doesn't have any cuts or any leaks in it. Then I'm going to move on along. I'm going to look at my fuel tank. This is where our fuel is put into the bus. I'm going to take my cap off. Should have a safety chain. Also, I'm checking to make sure that the gasket seal is in place inside the cap. Then I'm going to put my cap back on. Make sure that it's snug. My door closes properly, latches properly. I see no signs of any leaks. Looking down underneath, I don't have any leaks from my my fuel tank. Then I'm gonna move on around. Got my final clearance lights and reflectors here on the back of the side of the bus. Now I'm back here at the back of the bus. Again, I'm looking down underneath. Don't see anything underneath that would be any concern. My fuel tank is in a containment area down there in a steel containment cage. Looking at my lights, I've got my clearance lights, my school bus loading lights, and then they are all properly mounted and secure. They're the proper colors. Then I've got my turn signals, my brake lights, and my backup lights that are properly mounted and secure. They are also all the proper color. Here I have underneath, I have a tag light that illuminates the driver's license plate, which is also up to date checking to make sure that that it is properly mounted and secured, up to date. Looking at the back of my bus, it is outlined in reflective tape. I also have a school bus sign up at the front and at the back that are reflective. Those are properly mounted, they're visible and in good shape. My emergency exit door here on the back is also outlined in reflective tape, properly marked. I'm going to open my back emergency door, make sure that it opens freely. I have a wind latch that latches here to keep this door from blowing closed with high winds. It functions properly. I'm going to look at my gaskets all around my emergency exit to make sure that it's in place. Would not allow any carbon monoxide to seep into the bus. My windows are all properly mounted and secure. They're clean, not cracked or broken. I have instructions on how to operate the door mounted here on the inside. While I'm here, this is also a time that I'm going to look under the seats. I can look up under the seats on both sides, but I'm particularly going to look under this rear heater, make sure that I don't have any paper or debris built up under there that could create any type of a fire hazard. Okay, then I'm going to close my emergency exit, secure it back. On this side, I've got my tag light, or my bus number light is also under this tail light for my bus number. I've got my reflectors on both sides here. My exhaust is clean and clear. Now I'm gonna move over. Everything on the left side of the bus is the same basically as the right side of the bus, except for about 4 items that I'm going to cover, the items that are different on this side. One thing that automatically stands out is I have a stop sign. My stop sign is properly mounted and secure, moves properly. I don't have any exposed wiring. I have 4 reflective lights on this that are the proper color and they are not cracked or broken. I have my driver's window here that opens freely, moves freely, it's clean, not cracked or broken. This is my fuse and electrical panel. The door opens freely, has gasket around it for securing out the weather. My wiring all looks proper. I don't see any signs of any exposed wiring or any burned wires. I have spare fuses that would be stored under this panel right here. Then I have my bus compartment, or my battery compartment here, which is my batteries are properly mounted and secure. They are secured into the holder. Don't see any signs of excessive corrosion. All the connections appear to be tight and secure. Door moves freely and the door locks securely. Okay, so that is the outside of the pre-trip inspection. Tiffany, you can go ahead and turn that off.